So the author says, Section 27, clarifying the rules governing the support of dependents. It is obligatory on the solvent person. That means he has what suffices him. He has enough money for himself to support his poor ascendants, i.e. his fathers and forefathers, and mothers and foremothers, or if you want, fathers and grandfathers, and mothers and grandmothers. So if your grandfather is poor, then the obligation of taking care of your grandfather falls on your parent before it comes to you. So you say to your parent, that's your parent. It's obligatory on you to take care of your parent. But if that parent wasn't there, your parent wasn't there, or your parent couldn't take care of your grandparent, then it falls on you. And when we talk about supporting the parents, the obligation falls on all siblings. It's not on one of the children only, but all of them share this obligation. And how is this obligation fulfilled? This obligation is fulfilled by giving this parent what the parent needs. That is the shelter, clothing, and food. And there's not a particular amount that one is obligated to provide for this parent. Rather, he gives this parent what the parent needs. So he gives the parent some clothing. If the clothing wears out, then he gets him some more clothing, like that. He gives the parent enough food to get full, and like that. And in the case of the father, if he has a wife and he can't support her, then you're going to support his wife too. Father's wife here means not your mother. We say the father's wife here, it means not your mother. And if he needs to get married, if the father needs marriage and you can afford it, then you're going to help him get married too. But you don't have to pay zakat al-fitr for your father's wife. Even if you're supporting your father's wife, you don't have to pay zakat al-fitr for your father's wife. So it is obligatory on the solvent person to support one's poor ascendants. Yes, question.
Shaykh, is it a condition that they are supposed to be Muslim?
The obligation is on the Muslim parents. The obligation. Yes, you're welcome. I.e. fathers and forefathers and mothers and foremothers. Regardless of how far up they are in the line of ascent. But what's intended here is if their own children aren't available to take care of them or able to take care of them, even if they are able to earn a living, they are poor but able to earn a living, you can't say, Pop, you're still strong. Why don't you go out and work? You're not allowed to say that. Question, what if the person is a convert and their parents are not Muslim? Then it's not obligatory. But this new Muslim can take care of his non-Muslim parents. There's no harm in that. It's not haram. But if you want, say convert instead of revert. That's better. And the same applies to the grandparents? Yes. One is also obligated to support his descendants, i.e. his children and grandchildren, whether males or females, who are poor and cannot earn a living because they are non-pubescent or handicapped by chronic illness preventing them from earning a living. And same thing here. So you're going to support your child, you're going to support your grandchild, but you're going to support, I'm talking about an obligation here. You're going to be obligated to support your grandchild when what? When your own child is not available or not able to support your grandchild. Then you're going to be obligated to support the grandchild. Or else you're going to say to your child, that's your child. You take care of your child. And when are you obligated to take care, to spend on your own children? When they are poor. Poor means they don't have their own money. If they have their own money, you are allowed to take from the child's money and spend it on the child. If your child has his own money and you still support the child from your money, then it's a charity because it's not obligatory. When your child does not have his own money, then you're obligated to spend. And we're talking about the father here. Then the father is obligated to spend on this child from his money. It's not a charity. So when the child is poor, doesn't have his own money, and cannot earn a living because of being non-pubescent, or if you want pre-pubescent, say I have a little kid, 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, can't put him to work, and he doesn't have his own money. But it is possible for a prepubescent child to work and make money, and then for that money to be spent on the prepubescent child. But the parent's going to manage this money. The parent is going to do all the negotiating for the child too. The guardian, that is. The guardian is going to be doing the negotiating, that this child's going to work like this, and so much money is going to be paid for this work. The kuffar have something called child labor laws. These so-called child labor laws, they probably have some details and things like that, but as a broad statement, general statement without details, it's not valid. You said, what about parents who do not allow their daughters? You said they don't allow their daughters not to work. Are you saying they don't allow their daughters to work?
Yeah, Shaykh. So sometimes some in our family members, they don't let the daughters work at all. Like it's culture based more than anything. So it falls on the parents to provide for their daughters, right?
No, it's not obligatory on the parent to provide for the daughter. It's obligatory on the parent not to stop the daughter from working. It's not permissible to stop her from making money. We're not going to say it's obligatory on them to provide for this girl. We're talking about pubescent here. I'm talking about pubescent here. It's not permissible in the first place for them to stop this pubescent female from working, so that we would say now it's obligatory on them to support her. No, it's not. It's not permissible for them to stop her from making money. And the husband also. Husband is not. He does not have the right to stop his wife from making money. But he does, as we're going to say, inshallah, he does have the right to stop her from leaving the house, his house, his house. He does have the right to stop her from leaving his house, but he does not have the right to stop her from making money even in his house. So you're going to be obligated to support these prepubescent children if they don't have their own money. Or if they are pubescent, but they're handicapped by chronic illness, preventing them from earning a living. And illness here also includes being handicapped. I think, if I understand the word right, a person might be quote unquote handicapped, but he's healthy. So maybe he lacks some movement of his limbs because he has birth defect, for example. Maybe he can't move easily, but I'm not going to say he's sick. I think that's how it goes. So,
Shaykh,
yes.
just a question on that, what you mentioned about handicap or chronic illness. Can that also be tied back to someone who has a mental deficiency of some kind that prevents them from earning a
If it
living?
prevents him from working, if it does prevent him from earning, yes.
Okay, barakallah
If
feek.
it really prevents him, amin wa fikum. Like a clear example is insanity, but not necessarily something else. It's like, for example, you see sometimes someone has a child who's insane. So the child is like physically looks normal, but is talking and running around and like disruptive, but not in a malicious way. This one, you're gonna have to take care of this one after he reaches puberty if he stays like that. So those children who are poor and cannot earn a living because they are prepubescent or handicapped by a chronic illness. So I think handicap is broader than illness. If you have the illness, you're going to be handicapped. But if you have handicap, maybe doesn't mean you're sick. You might be not sick. Like you don't have a cold, you don't have a cough, you don't have something like that, a disease. Maybe you're born though your bones were not created usually. Maybe Allah created you with not with usual bone structure, so you can't work, but otherwise you are healthy. So then you're going to be called handicapped, or maybe something else. If the descendant is able to earn a living, then the guardian may take him to do so and spend what he earns on him, like I already told you. It is also obligatory on the husband to support his wife by providing her with what she needs. Yes. What she needs. So interesting word there. Let me check the Arabic. يجب على الزوج نفقة الزوجة الممكنة من نفسها له من طعام وكسوة ونحو ذلك على ما فصل الفقهاء الكلام في عليه. So this word need here is not in the Arabic. Let me translate what it says in Arabic. It is obligatory on the husband, the support of the wife, or the spousal support if you want, is obligatory on the husband for a wife who makes herself available to him. That means she doesn't refuse him. Al-mumakkinati min nafsiha lahu, whether food or clothing and the likes of that. Doesn't say need here at all. The word haja, for example, is not here. It's obligatory on the husband. What is obligatory on him? The support of the wife who gives him access to herself. She doesn't prevent him from herself. He has to provide her with food and clothing and the likes of that, according to details that the jurists have discussed. So that's what it says there. What it says to say here in English. By providing her with what she needs. So that's not in the Arabic. How that Bismillah. How did that stand out for me? How did I catch that? I caught that because he's going to provide for his wife whether she needs it or she doesn't need it. Because his wife might be wealthier than he is. He still has to provide for her. So that's why I found it interesting. I thought to myself, would the Shaykh say that when it's not a condition? So then now we just looked and we saw it's not there. So it is also obligatory on the husband to support his wife by providing her with yani. Technically here doesn't say what she needs. Now usually she's going to need that, but not necessarily. Maybe she doesn't need any of his money. She doesn't need a house from him or anything from him. He's still going to be obligated to support her as long as she doesn't relieve him. If she relieves him and says, you don't have to give me anything, or you don't have to give me food, but you can still give me the clothing or whatever, then that will be the case. Providing her with food, clothing, and the like. Doesn't say other needs in the Arabic. وَنَحْوِ ذَلِكَ, and the likes of that, about which the scholars spoke in detail. So that sentence is not translated very well. Should you take it out? I would take it out. I would take it out firstly because it's not in the Arabic text, and secondly because it's not really the accurate rule. Her needing it is not a condition. One could take away from this that if she doesn't need it, then he doesn't have to provide for her. So her needing it is not a condition. It's the fact that she's his wife that makes him obligated to do that. The wife, in fact, is the only one that he has to provide for, not because she needs it. Everyone else he has to provide for them because they need it, even his child. Because if his child has his own money, then he can spend his child's money on the child. So he only is obligated to spend his money on the child when the child doesn't have money. That means the child needs it. Same thing for his parents. He only has to spend on the parents when they need it, but he doesn't have to spend on the wife because she needs it. He has to spend on the wife for a different reason, which is because she's his wife. That's a different reason. He says, so if the wife doesn't need anything from her husband, she must relieve him from his obligations? No. Okay, you understand now. Okay. If she doesn't need anything from him, she still has the right to say to him, can I have my food that you're obligated to provide for me, please? And also that lodging, and also those clothing. It says here, this is the case as long as the wife does not prevent him from physically enjoying her. So let me see the Arabic here. Yeah. So they took a little bit of liberties here in the translation, because here they made this a new sentence when it's part of the first sentence. The way it is in Arabic is saying it's obligatory on the husband to support his wife who makes herself available to him. That part right there, they took it out of this sentence and made it its own sentence right here. This is the case as long as the wife does not prevent him from physically enjoying her. And the husband is also obligated to offer her a dowry. Mahr. Saying the footnote here. It says the dowry is an obligatory payment, by the husband in the form of wealth like gold, jewelry, paper money, etc., commodities like books, furniture, a car, etc., or services like teaching her how to recite certain chapters of the Quran. Okay, that's true, except that the word commodity here is included under wealth, because the book is money. When it says like gold, jewelry, and paper money, so you say, that's like money. Yeah. And like books is money too. Furniture is money. Car is money. So all that's really is one thing. Either the dowry is going to be some money, like any of these, gold, jewelry, uh, currency, paper currency, books, furniture, car, etc., or a service like teaching her how to recite the Quran, or teaching her how to read, or teaching her how to sew, or taking her to Hajj. Question, enjoying her whenever he wants? That's right, as long as it's permissible. Enjoying her whenever he wants, if it's a time that it's permissible. So enjoying her, as long as it's not haram, that's the meaning. So he can't have intercourse with her while she's menstruating, or having postpartum bleeding, or if she's sick in a way that intercourse is harmful for her. But even if she were menstruating, he could still hug her if he wanted to, or like that, or like, let's say, run his fingers through her hair or something like that. So she's not allowed to stop him from any of that. So she can't deny him of sexual intercourse, but anything, nothing. Only what's haram. Only what's haram she can deny him. Like if he wants to do sodomy, she can stop him. Or if she's menstruating, she can stop him. So what about a woman who is unable to have sexual intercourse because of a medical reason? So that goes to what I just mentioned too. Or if she's sick in a way that sexual intercourse is harmful, then he can't do that because it's not permissible for him to harm her. But Yani, just you have to be mindful there, because that does not include, for example, a quote-unquote headache. So the husband is also obligated to offer her a dowry. Offer it. So that's how they worded it here in English. Also in the Arabic, let me see. It's obligatory on him. It just says her dowry is obligatory on him. That's what. So, okay.
So, Shaykh,
Yes.
question on the dowry there. Is that become obligatory by default as a result of the marriage contract? Is that what that means?
No. Not by default, just by the mere marriage contract, it becomes binding on him.
Or it becomes binding on him?
Sorry?
It becomes binding on him by the marriage contract, you're saying?
No. Becomes binding on him if he consummates the marriage.
Okay.
It's possible that he might divorce her without any sexual intercourse. But there's details there. When does she deserve half of it? When does she doesn't deserve any of it? There's details there. But when I said it's not binding until he consummates the marriage, that means 100% of it is not binding until he consummates the marriage. Is there some amount of it that's binding? There's details there. We need to review. But if he consummates the marriage, khalas, 100% of it now is binding. Amin Wafiq. If the marriage contract is breached by a cause other than that of the wife's. Wa alaikum assalam. He said, did you ever hear, according to other scholars, that it's permissible to enjoy his wife on her period with a barrier? No. Never heard that it's permissible with a barrier. No. Never heard that. Someone claimed that, I'm going to say to him, how do you answer the ayah? فَاعْتَزِلُوا النِّسَاءَ فِي الْمَحِيضِ. Refrain from the women during menstruation. Amin Wafiq. That's Surah Al-Baqarah. Question, is it sinful on both if intercourse during that time, if she's accepting, then she's sinful? The number of the ayah, I don't know. I don't recall now. It was mentioned that intercourse during menstruation can make one or both of them sick and could be a reason for the baby to come out with a complexion that's different from both parents. Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 222. Thank you. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Let me just clarify for you too, sister, why I made that comment about revert and convert. Because in the religion, there's such thing as kafir asli. Kafir asli. That basically means born as a kafir. When someone is born to non-Muslim parents, if his parents are Christians and he's a Christian, the baby, that newborn baby, that baby is only 1 minute old out of his mother, he's a Christian. Or if he's born to Jews, he's a Jew. That's the correct religious rule. And like that, if he's born to Buddhists, he's a Buddhist. This one is called kafir asli, original kafir. He's born like that. So that's why it's better not to say revert, because when people say revert, they mean we're born as Muslims. And when they say we're born as Muslims, they have here a misunderstanding and a slight confusion. There is something we're born with, but not necessarily Islam. It's true that some people are actually born as kuffar. That's a consensus, actually. That's consensus. But what the child is, every child, even the kafir child, what even the kafir child is born with is the fitrah. So every child is born on the fitrah. That's true, but that doesn't mean every child is born as a Muslim. But some people thought every child is born on the fitrah means every child is born as a Muslim. And then from there they said, we're all born as Muslims. And then from there they said, so when I embrace Islam, actually I'm reverting back to Islam because I already, originally I was one. So this here has misconception in it. So that's why better for you not to say it. And even to advise other people, because so that they don't perpetuate a misunderstanding. Fitrah. Fitrah. Is fitrah the willingness to obey? No, fitrah is the readiness for monotheism, like default. It's like to say the human being is programmed for monotheism originally, but something might override his programming. So all of us are born with this, what you call default programming, which is to accept monotheism and believe in monotheism properly, to believe that God is not like the creations, that he is unique. But something might override this person's programming, like his parents would teach him kufr when he's little, and then he'll accept it. They'll tell him, worship Jesus. He is our Lord and Savior. And then he'll take it.
Shaykh, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So if a Muslim man who had a child with a person who's non-Muslim, but then
Yes.
the woman, because they couldn't have the marriage because she was pregnant, she's had the baby, and now that she's converted. So what do you do with the child? The child is, I think, almost 2 or 3, I think now. So
Then
what do you do with the child?
if the parent embraces Islam while the child is still prepubescent, then the child will be judged as a Muslim following the parent, by extension of the parent. The child will be judged as a Muslim by extension of the parent, or even the grandparent. But it is valid to do the marriage while she's pregnant. Pregnancy does not make marriage invalid, or pregnancy does not make marriage inaccessible. A pregnant woman can validly get married.
They were guided not to until she has the baby. And question 2, that question is the same situation, but the mother decided not to convert, and she carried on being, I think she was Christian. She doesn't follow her religion. So the father's Muslim, but they're not married, and then they've got the child. Now he's basically putting pressure on the mother to say that the child needs to become Muslim and learn Islam. So the child is about 7 years old. So what does the father do, or what does the child do?
So, firstly, be clear that since the child is born out of wedlock, that he's not religiously considered the father. We can say he is not the father. That's a valid statement. And, and it would be valid to say he's not this child's father. This child was merely created from his fluid. Because when a man has, when a man impregnates a woman out of wedlock, this cuts off the lineage. So then this child's going to be attributed to the woman only, not to the man. So whatever is her religion, that's what the child's religion is going to be. And then if he wants to try to be in this child's life, then he's going to try to make, the mother comply with him concerning the religion of this child. And then, as they say, good luck with that. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't.
So do you get the child to take the Shahada because he's 7 years old now?
At 7 years old, according to some scholars like the Hanafis, then that's valid. If they take the Shahada, that's valid to consider them Muslim. If the child has mental discerning. According to others, you make the child say the Shahada at puberty. So if in this situation, if you want it, you could do both things, which I mean to say, make the child say the Shahada once they reach mental discerning, according to those who said that's valid. And then when the child reaches puberty, make the child say the Shahada, just to cover those who said that it needs to be at puberty.
Yeah, this is for a convert father, if that makes sense. So he was with the person, they had a child without wedlock. Then he converted, but the partner didn't, and then they've separated. But now he's taking the responsibility of the child.
Yes, so he definitely will raise this child as a Muslim and teach this child Islam. And it's very important that the issue is known to someone because of inheritance rules and other rules. Yani, When we say he's not the father because of the child being born out of wedlock, then this includes that this child will not inherit from him. And if this child were a girl, he cannot give her in marriage. He's not her guardian. So, in order to, and other things, in order to observe these religious rules that depend on the validity of the family tie, then especially the inheritance part, somebody's going to have to know that this child does not inherit. Like he would say to whoever's going to execute his will, even doesn't have to be public. He can just say to that person, this child should not inherit.
But what if the children are under his care and the mother has basically passed away and the full responsibility is on the father?
But who's going to execute his will? He's not going to execute his own will because he'll be dead. So it means he has to, whoever's going to execute his will, he has to let them know this child here does not inherit.
But he can give a gift before he passes?
Yes, or even after he passes, a gift, not inheritance. Meaning, there's some, like in our lesson from last week, there's a will. The will is a gift after death, and then there's the inheritance. The inheritance is how the money gets distributed to the heirs according to what came in the Quran. So the gift after death can go to anyone, even a bastard child or an illegitimate child. Could leave a will for that child, but he can't. But the child cannot take any of the inheritance. So someone's going to have to know that. Someone's going to have to know that. The executor is going to have to know that, or else they're going to distribute it like that child inherits, and then the distribution is going to be misappropriated. Money's going to be misappropriated. If the person is knowledgeable, if that executor is knowledgeable, when he says to that executor, this child does not inherit, then he's going to say, okay, yani he's going to understand. Wills and inheritance, not in detail, just this obligatory knowledge what's here. You missed last week's lesson?
I did miss last week's lesson, yes, Papa.
No, I was asking the other brother. He was just asking me. Right here, you remember the Shaykh says right here, it is invalid to distribute a deceased person's inheritance or to sell any of it until their debts are cleared and the will is executed. So that's what we covered last week. The lesson's on my YouTube, though, if you want to check it out. Okay. Any last question, inshallah? I don't have a lesson about wills and inheritance in detail. Not yet.
Shaykh, please excuse me. What is distributed first? Is it the gift or the inheritance?
The gift will be distributed first. And before that, the debts will be paid.
Okay.
Can I ask a last question, if it's possible?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
My question is, like, as we give sadaqah and we do Umrah and Hajj, I don't know if I've asked this because I can't remember, because I asked another brother on a lesson, but I don't think I got my answer. Are we allowed to give sadaqah or do Umrah or Hajj for our Prophet or even the Sahabas?
Are we allowed to do a Umrah or give a charity and dedicate the reward of that to the Prophet or to the Sahaba?
Yes.
Yes, that's permissible.
Jazakallah, brother.
Amin wa iyyakum. Or any other good deed. You can recite the Quran and say, oh Allah, I dedicate the reward of this recitation to Prophet Muhammad or to Abu Bakr or whoever you want.
Shaykh, when you say the word default in our Islamic references, what does that mean?
Default, it means, the word itself means original case. It's like if you buy a phone or a computer, it has what they call factory settings, means like when you first turn it on before you do anything. That's how it is by default. Then you're gonna customize it. So if my analogy helps you. Yeah, at-tab'iyah. Yeah. At-tab'iyah is what I'm translating as by extension of. So if a non-Muslim with a prepubescent child embraced Islam, then this prepubescent child will be a Muslim by extension of this parent. if the marriage contract is breached by a cause other than that of the wife's, such as him divorcing her because of her bad manners, the husband must pay her a mut'ah. Yes. Meaning here, so this might confuse you, this footnote's important here. If the marriage contract is breached by a cause other than that of the wife, this means if the wife is the one who got the marriage contract broken, that's what it means. If the reason the marriage contract is broken is because of the wife, it came from the wife's side, because of other than the wife, rather. If the marriage contract is breached by other than the wife, it's not from the wife's side. And then here's an example, such as him divorcing her because of her bad manners. So now someone might say, that's from the wife's side, right? Or that's because of the wife. Look at how it's worded here. I'm going to look in the Arabic too. If the marriage contract is breached by a cause other than that of the wife's, other than the cause of the wife, it's breached by other than the wife causing it. And then the example is, such as him divorcing her because of her bad manners. So someone might think this example is an example of the wife causing the breach. It's not. This is his causing the breach. He divorced her. Such as him divorcing her. And then says, because of her bad manners. I'm not sure why they chose that example. The husband must pay her a mut'ah. So let me pull up the Arabic text now so I can see what's going on there. So here, the Arabic says right here, it is obligatory on the husband. The support of the wife, the spousal support of the wife is obligatory on the husband. That's not where we're starting. We're starting here. And also obligatory on the husband for his wife is her dowry. And obligatory on him, meaning the husband, for her, towards her, it's an obligation on him to fulfill for her, for his wife, a mut'ah, which we didn't explain yet. وهو مقدار من المال يدفعه لها. It's an amount of money that he pays to her. إن وقع الفراق بينهما بغير سبب منها. If the separation between them happens by not by her causing it. If it happens not by her causing it, like for him to divorce her for her bad manners. If you take out لِسُوءِ خُلُقِهَا, for her bad manners, still true. Like for him to divorce her. That's it. Because he's the one who divorced her. She can't divorce herself here. So it came from him. He divorced her. Why he did it? Maybe he divorced her even for let's say he divorced her for her good manners. Same judgment. So I'm not sure why is the example here. And the example, I think, is potentially confusing. And then says, and as for a reason from her, it's like if she commits apostasy. If she commits apostasy, then the marriage contract is broken from her side. So let's go back to the English. So, if the marriage contract is breached by a cause other than that of the wife's. So I feel like this phrase here could be improved. Now I'm not going to sit and formulate another sentence though, but this can be improved. Such as him divorcing her because of her bad manners. And then this needed a footnote, so they put the footnote. In this context, the man who divorces his wife because of her bad manners is considered the cause of the marriage being breached. but bad manners is not a condition. Then the husband must pay her a mut'ah. Footnote. A mut'ah is something of value given to the ex-wife as a consolation after separation. Yes. Yani, as a reconciliation payment, something to reconcile her heart. That's important. Actually, I always remind the brothers. If you divorced the woman, don't forget, if you divorced her and you consummated the marriage, what you have to do? Got to give her her mut'ah. Can't divorce her and that's it. Yani, if you consummated your marriage with a woman, then the divorce is not free. So the husband must pay her a mut'ah, which is an amount of money paid by the husband to his ex-wife. And probably you find that ambiguous. And it is a little ambiguous, but it's like the dowry. What's the dowry? Isn't the dowry an amount of money or the like? Could be a money or it could be a benefit. So it's not, the dowry is not a specific amount. It's not an amount in particular. It's something that you're going to pay her. The mut'ah is also something you're going to pay her. So if you divorced her after you consummated the marriage with her, then you're going to say, for example, to her, I owe you mut'ah. Here, do you want this $100, for example? Take this $100, take this $50, take this $500, take this card, take this jewelry, or something like that. Given that she is not entitled to half of the dowry, this part though I need to review. The ex-wife does not deserve a mut'ah if she were the reason behind the marriage contract being breached, such as if she apostatized, you don't need a comma here, such as if she apostatized and did not return to Islam before the post-marital period expired. She committed apostasy and didn't come back to Islam before her iddah expired. Now this marriage is broken and it's from her. Or another example. According to religious laws, she was able to go to the judge and get her marriage contract broken. So the judge pronounced the divorce. There's some cases when the judge can pronounce a divorce for her. Like when her husband does not support her. And then she goes through the proper process uh, to get out of that marriage. And she goes to the judge. Or she goes to an acting judge, like a good Muslim who knows the rules. And then they go through the proper procedure and they give that man 3 days to support his wife. And then if he doesn't support her, then the judge can pronounce a divorce. Or the judge can forward to her pronouncing the divorce, and then she'll be able to pronounce the divorce. Or another case is her husband swore to not have sexual intercourse with her. And then, according to proper details, without me going through all the details here, she went to the judge, and the judge, he told her husband, break your swear or divorce her. And he wouldn't break his swear and he wouldn't divorce her. Then the judge can pronounce the divorce. So now, in these cases I just told you, the divorce, the marriage was broken from her side, not from his side. So she does not deserve a mut'ah. Nah. Okay. If you have any question there, feel free. The author says, now he's finished talking about spousal support. He says, the owner of male or female slaves or animals must support them by providing them with food, clothes, and other necessities they have. Uh, when it comes to the slaves, the recommendation is to feed your slave with what you eat, clothe him with what you wear, lodge him how you lodge yourself, and do not give him more work than he can bear. And if you do, then help him. But the obligation itself is to give these slaves the clothing of the slaves and the food of the slaves and the lodging of the slaves. That's the obligation. SubhanAllah. Question: if the wife asks for a divorce and the husband divorces her, is the divorce from her side? No, it's from his side. SubhanAllah. If you want to get an idea of what some slave clothing and slave lodging, look at that movie called Roots. And you see how they wear some rags. It's not really raggedy rags, but it's pretty shabby. Have some shabby clothes. Maybe there's a rope. It doesn't have a nice belt, has a rope, something like that. But in America, they didn't used to feed them well. That's what they say. I wasn't there. And they definitely used to give them a lot of work. He must not charge them with more work than they can bear, and must not beat them unjustly. Yes, that's the animals and the slaves, because some of his animals might be work animals, not just his cat, but could have a cow or a camel or something. He uses it for service. And then the author talks about the obligation of the wife. It is an obligation upon the wife to obey her husband in what he asks for pertaining to enjoying her. Says he asks. Let me see the Arabic there. في نفسها. Okay. من الوطء والاستمتاع حتى لو طلب منها. He sought from her. Okay. So it doesn't really say he asks her. Yani, it's not a condition that he asks her. She cannot prevent him from enjoying her body. One is permissible for him to do so, and it's not a condition for him to ask her. So it says here, it is an obligation upon the wife to obey her husband in what he asks for. So that's not best translation. Pertaining to enjoying her through intercourse or other types of enjoyment, like just enjoying her company with him. He wants her to be with him, to sit with him, for example. Or he wants to just hold her hand or something. And if he asks her to beautify herself, it is her duty to do so, but with under a detail here that's so open there. It's her duty to do so if he provided her with the material. She's not obligated to put on her own stuff for him. But if he provides her with the material, and he requests her to beautify herself with the material he provided her, then she's obligated to use it. She must obey him sexually except in what is not permissible. What's not permissible, like intercourse during menstruation, or like sodomy, or like intercourse during the daytime of Ramadan. So she does not allow him to have intercourse with her while in her menses or postpartum bleeding. Yes, just as example. She is not allowed to fast an optional fast without his permission if her husband is present in the same settlement. Yani, if her husband's in town, she does not fast an optional fasting without his permission, because fasting interferes with his right to enjoy her. So she doesn't engage in this interference without his permission. If her husband is Uh, sorry. Or to leave his house without his permission. And what's the key word here? His. To leave his house without his permission. Unless there's a necessity. What about her own house? He has no dominion over her property. Her money is hers. You know what money is. So that means all her property, her house, her houses, her clothes, her money, her cash, all her stuff, he has no dominion over it. Can he say to her, I don't accept for Fulan to sleep at your house? Can't say it to her. What he can say to her? He can say to her, Fulan sleeping at your house, come to my house now. Come to my house. Then she has to come to his house. She doesn't leave his house without his permission unless there is a necessity, like the house is going to collapse, or there are home invaders, or something else. Say that again. Yeah. At his house? No, it's not a Yani. She could have 20 houses. If he says to her, come to my house, she's obligated. Of her house? Okay, so the rule is, this is the answer to your question. The rule is she must enter his house if he demands that of her. That's it. If she's outside of his house and he demands of her to enter his house, she has to. And if she's in his house and he demands of her not to leave, then she can't, even if she has her own house. Mashallah. Question: if a man has multiple wives and it's not the wife's night, can she fast that day as an optional fast without his permission? I don't know. That's a good question. He is already not permitted to be with her during that day or night since it's not her night. That's correct. I don't know. We'll ask. If you get the answer, let me know, please. All right. Now we're really at the home stretch. We finished that section, and now we've reached the section on the obligations of the heart.